We've had snow come to us twice this week. So the fact that it's coming in November is indicating that we're going to have a pretty cold winter. So how are you all finding the weather, and how are you all finding the snow? Do let me know this morning. Listeners, I wanted to let you also know that on the note of talking about winter and being winter ready, there is a free event running in partnership with Bedfordshire Road Safety, where they are trying to limit road collisions and accidents, where the Luton Fire Station, and this is the one near New Bedford Road, is offering a free winter car check. And they will be checking tyres, fluid levels, lights test, wipers checks, all things that need to be in top form in our cars over the winter. And this is a free event, and it is running over 2 days. And so this Luton Fire Station, the postcode is LU31BB. And the first one is running tomorrow, Saturday, 23rd of November, between 12 o'clock and 3 p.m. And the second one is next week on Thursday, 28th of November, and that's a morning one, 10 till 1. So they've given some nice times there so that it covers everyone's schedules. So if you want your car looked over, that's a place to go to. They are running that free winter check and checking all those things for you to make sure your car is winter ready. And yes, it has been a very cold week, and we are now entering minus temperatures and single digits. So yeah, it's quite bizarre to be feeling that in November, but and with all of it, everyone's got these terrible coughs and colds. So we need to keep our bodies active, and we need to be making sure that we are having the right things to keep our bodies going. Now, listeners, we are live on air at Inspire FM 105.1 FM, reaching out to all our listeners in Luton and surrounding areas. You can also hear the show on TuneIn via the Inspire FM webpage. And you can also hear the show on your smartphones via the Inspire FM app. And we are also streaming live on the Inspire FM Facebook page, where you must give the show a thumbs up and can also leave any comments or question around today's topic. And as always, I am taking in WhatsApp messages on the studio number 07779 481 822. Now, I do have a guest that is going to be joining me this morning, but with the lovely weather that we were blessed with this morning, there has no doubt been traffic and congestion on the road. So she is running slightly late, and she is on her way, I am told. So just bear with us there, listeners, because she will be coming in, and Sadia will be introducing herself in the show as well. But in the meantime, I would like to know how you all are getting on, and what you are doing to keep yourself protected over the winter. What's the hacks that you have at home? Or, mums, I'm reaching out to you here. Are there any winter hacks or anything that you do to keep your children's immune systems boosted over these colder months? Yes, I would love to hear from you. So do message in onto the studio, and close the door. Thank you. So Sister Sadia has just joined us this morning, and I will be getting her to introduce herself to the listeners. I'm just going to make sure I've got the right mic. So we are number 4. Good morning and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, you made it.
Yes.
The traffic on the road. I was just saying, if we have a little bit of snow, a little bit of ice on the road, and
all stand still. That's it.
Everything goes into mayhem, and
absolutely.
So the roads but you're here.
Alhamdulillah, Allah will do.
And so, Sadia, are you a winter person?
Yes, I am actually. Much prefer it, the cold weather, because at least you can do something for it. The heat, I think, is intolerable sometimes here.
That's very true as well. Yeah. Yes, I do find though, I'd hate driving when it's icy. As soon as my kids woke up on Tuesday morning and when we saw the snow outside, the first thing that hit my head was, I'm hoping the schools are closed, because it's really difficult to drive.
It is.
It just makes everything difficult.
It does. I think just it's cold without the snow. Yeah, snow and foggy conditions, they make it all very difficult. But I think for like school, I mean, there's an added excitement. Are we going to be open? Are we not going to be open? Or can I throw a snowball at a friend? You know, all of those kind of things.
Yes.
So make it quite enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is that. I do like the initial first day of snow. It's the next day that I don't like when it's there. So I was quite happy on Tuesday when we had the morning of snow, and then in the afternoon, it's like it never hit the ground.
That's right.
It was all washed away. So I've just mentioned there is Luton Fire Station is doing a free winter check for cars. And I just mentioned that to the listeners. One's running tomorrow, 23rd of November, between 12 and 3. And then the next one is on Thursday, 28th of November, between 10 and 1. And that's the Luton Fire Station LU3 1BB. So I know we've got 2 in Luton. So this is the one near New Bedford Road. So yes, in today's show, my guest and I will be talking about education and education in today's society. The show will be broken into 3 segments where we are going to be looking at education from a spiritual and faith perspective, and then we'll be discussing education as a means of growth and development, and then education as hope for the future. Now, Sadia will also be sharing a very important cause that she's taking part in, which will also be shared later on this morning. But first, Sadia, without further ado, can I please get you to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yes, thank you. So my name is Sadia Hussain. So I'm a member of a community here, and I'm a mother of 2. And my favorite title, so I'm a student now as well. So this is why, I'm passionate to speak about education today.
Yeah, so very fitting being a student as well, and a mother of 2. So I always admire mums that have children and they're going back into education, because you don't have the same freedom with your time.
Absolutely.
As a mother, you've got so many other roles to run. I signed up to a few FIC classes, and they would run 1 session a week, but it was crazy, because it's the intensity that's involved of how much you need to make sure you're learning and getting on board, and anything that I didn't understand, I needed to make sure I was going back and recapping and confirming. So yeah, hats off to you. Well done for doing that, because it's a very challenging job to juggle both motherhood and education for yourself, and also well done, because when you become a mum, a lot of the time mums just switch off and think my role is to just provide and be there for the children, and while it is, and that is an important factor for us, we forget what we need to do for ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so to go back and and if you're educating yourself, then you can provide that knowledge and skills to your children as well. So it's beneficial all around. So.
Absolutely. They're looking on. So, they won't feel alone. So they're like, well, you're out with your books, So when you ask them to have their books out, they need to be doing the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. So well done. Have I got the right questions here? I've got the wrong question list here, so I'm going to go through and find my questions here to you, Sadia. This is me relying on my children to do the printing for me, and as they have done, they've printed the wrong questions out.
Oh, bless them.
So I will. You've got access to the questions, or you know them?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. I'm happy to kind of
go through
it for you.
So, from an Islamic perspective, from a faith perspective, how does Islam emphasize the importance of seeking knowledge?
I think, well, if we go right to the beginning, so like when we think of when Allah created humans, and Adam alayhi salam was taught all the names. So if when you look in Surah Baqarah, the story is narrated in there. that the difference between us as humans and all other creation is knowledge.
Right.
So, like I said, it starts from that very point. And then as we look through time, and when the final message came, what was the first word that was revealed to the prophet? Iqra.
Yeah.
So like read. In the name of your Lord, read.
Yes.
So, the emphasis has always been there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look beyond then prophethood,
mm-hmm.
and the time that the Muslims really, in their glory, it was because of knowledge, because of, constantly seeking, further, advancement. We didn't just stay static in one thing. So many Muslim theologians have contributed so much to society today.
Yes.
And it was through that drive of learning knowledge that created that. And I really think that that's something that we're missing today. But, alhamdulillah, we as a community, we can tackle things first of all at the individual level, family level, and then at a level of community, and then kind of have that ripple come out. And I do see that change. I see so many fantastic things out there, which we'll speak about throughout the course of the show, inshallah.
Yes, inshallah. And I think you're right. I think growing up for myself, in my generation, the spirituality aspect of education wasn't so much there. And I don't blame my parents, because they came to this country at a time where it's very difficult as Muslims or anyone of any other nationality to make any form of ground for themselves.
Absolutely.
So it's very difficult for them. And so for them, education was really important, and they felt that we needed to be academic and study. And so the Islamic aspect of it wasn't pushed so much. I mean, I remember going to the masjids and reading the Quran, but the emphasis was more on your schooling education. Absolutely. And now with us in our generation, see that hunger and that passion reviving in people, where they are looking to now try and go back to the way of the Sunnah. And
so.
It's inshallah.
I think the tide is definitely turning.
Yes,
I definitely agree with you on that.
Yes. So for yourself, on your spiritual journey, because you said you're a student, so I don't know if you're studying, are you studying at university level? Or
so no, I'm studying with an institute online, but it is a quite a heavy, in-depth study of classical Arabic.
Wow.
So for me, it's not the idea of having conversations in Arabic, but I feel like the missing thing in my life was actually like understanding the Quran.
Yes.
Because when my kids were little, I actually went into learning tajweed back then. Some lessons I would have to turn up with my car seat and my little one in there. And I would just, my ustada, she was great. She was like, just bring him along, it'll be fine. Just don't miss out on a lesson, keep going.
Yes.
So, having teachers that sort of validate your struggle while you're doing something is really important, in education. But I mean, that's where, for me, was really the turning point. It's like, if I want to be able to teach my children, I really need to be that example first. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I'm going to tell them, but I don't know it myself. Yes. So I think that was, sort of a turning point for me. So yes, I'm a student in classical Arabic. It's a 2-year cohort where we're literally learning everything inside out of classical Arabic. So by the end of it, the aim is that you should be able to pick up the Quran and find yourself translating it in your mind. So that is the depth of study. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is not easy.
Yes.
But I mean, the actual institute is US based. So one of my classes happens at 1 a.m. Mm-hmm. But it works because my children are asleep. There's no distractions. So for me, actually that is the best time to sort of tune in. And I have my family support, alhamdulillah. So the other class, I'll get cover. I mean, one of my children, he's got sort of complex needs. So I have the support of a carer as well, so that I'm able to sort of complete assignments and submit them in and everything. Yeah. But it's, I think until we don't delve deeper, we're going to be feeling that what we're learning is just a set of facts. It's not having an impact on us the way it should be. Yes. We're not feeding our soul in the way that we should be.
Yes.
For me, that whole idea that when we wrap up from this world and then we're asked, what did you do? I reflected on that question and say, am I really going to go back and say, I didn't know what the message was that was revealed. I recited it, but I don't know what was actually asked of me or what you commanded me, or like that kind of, made me tremble inside. I thought, right, okay, this can't go on. At least, even if I'm starting now at this late age, at least I'd die trying. that is the kind of motivation that I have, that even if something happened in between this, I'd actually was on the journey. Yes. So that is the important thing, is taking that first step. Yeah. And then just one step will lead to another. And what I will say to everybody is that there is one supplication that Allah will not deny. And that is one, if you ask for guidance. That is the one supplication, if you ask for sincerely, the avenues will open up to you in the most, unbelievable circumstances. You will find things will make their way to you, and it's there for you to seize and take it up. I'm a firm believer of that, because when I look at my life now, I just think I wouldn't have thought I would be studying with 2 kids, especially one, having really complex needs and the whole situation. But actually, I find myself more motivated to do it, because I'm like, obviously, the most expensive currency that we have now is our time. And if we want to, truly, we'll prioritize, we'll go in there and we'll go and do it. So Islamic education, and obviously where we have that emphasis on academic education, they're both really important. In fact, I think one can actually help the other. I mean, I remember when I was younger, my parents allowed me to go to like Islamic talks and things like that. And I would just be like pressing my science teacher for answers for things, because they'd be like teaching us things like the Darwin theory. And I would be saying, okay, can you make that make sense? Because obviously something has to have an origin. Yes. And then he get to a point and say, Sadia, sit down, please. He goes, don't ask me any more questions. Yeah. But I felt strong in my belief because of having, that knowledge. And that's what knowledge does to you. And knowledge empowers you to, not just be fed something and take it for what it is. And in the end, I did gift him a book. I gave him a book, says Science in Islam, because I really wanted, even at that age, I wanted to tell him that actually Muslims do contribute. I mean, I was very sure of my identity because of having knowledge. I didn't ever run into a crisis as in, what am I not, that sort of thing. Because when you have knowledge, you feel like, you can...
You're grounded.
You're grounded. And you have like role models. If you look like, I grew up absolutely adoring Malcolm X, and, not allowing my race or ethnicity or anything, not allowing anybody to use that as a means of taking me any different to the next person. So I've always had that kind of drive in me to say things as they are, and challenge things, where we need to. And I think we're in a time and a place now where we need more of that. And in fact, I think a lot of people are doing that now. Yeah. Before, we would just be subdued and, say, okay, this is how, there is some hostility or there is this. But now actually we'll say, no, it's not acceptable. And that's what education does. It helps eliminate discriminations. It helps, like I said to you, so that's at a societal level. It helps the thing. And right now, like I said, with everything that's unfolding, it's more so important that we're educated. So if we have an opinion or a view on something, we've got all the knowledge to back it up. So if somebody asks me about Palestine now, I'll be like, well, actually, I've been there. I can tell you about it. And I can say I've read up on the topic as well. And my opinion is formed through various things. So that makes me, say to everybody that delve into Islamic history, because yes, there are the dips and the highs, but there is so much lesson to take from there. So like, pick any knowledge aspect, like any kind of education, any topic, it will benefit you. There is a takeaway. There's no loss with education as long as you allow it to impact you the right way. That's what I feel.
And I really like the way that you said that from a young age you were exposed to these Islamic talks and, self-studying in an aspect as well of finding out what our faith was all about. So you never really, because, I'm guilty of it. I fell into the identity crisis, and I know a lot of people in my generation did fall into that, of who am I, what is my purpose, and sometimes it's healthy to have that, because falling into that made me question my existence, made me question what I'm doing. And, also as you had that question of, when I leave, what am I going to say I did?
Yeah.
And so when that dawned upon me, it changed things. And then I took life in a different stride, and I took things very differently. And so when I was, the question I wanted to ask, which I think we've kind of touched on, is about bringing the modern age education in, and merging Islamic education together. And I think you sort of hit the nail on the head, is giving our children that exposure to our faith. Yes, you're studying science and you're studying maths, and all of this was happening in the time of the Prophet ﷺ as well. And maths was a huge part of Islamic history as well.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of mathematicians and scientists in our Islamic history that have not been recognized, that actually were the finders of a lot of things that we are using today. So and once the children have been exposed to that and seen that, it does put them in a more empowered situation of, we are in the right faith, we are doing the right thing, it grounds them much better, and it gives them that confidence.
Something to be proud of.
Absolutely. That's the word. Something to be proud of. So do you think in today's day and age, spiritual education is getting a little bit neglected, or do you think it's picking up a bit now?
I think a lot of things are happening, but equally, I think there's still a missing piece. I feel like as though we go through the motions of, teaching our kids, some like basic Islamic studies. They read Quran and they recite it, and then at best, some families will go down the hifth route and say, okay, let's, make them a memorizer of the Quran. But none of us, like very few of us, go down that route to say, okay, you know how to recite now, but let's delve, behind what's the meaning behind the words.
Yes.
That is a part. But the thing is, now materials are being made, like, for younger audiences, so that parents have, madrasas have, ustads have that to hand. So I'm sure listeners have known of the Clear Quran. We've heard like this new plain English translation. So as adults, we don't have that excuse anymore. Oh, it's in Old English. We're not going to be able to quite get our head around it. No, it's in actually straightforward English, and it's, comes with various footnotes. So to give you the context to a particular ayah or verse. So like I said to you, there's apps now. I mean, the resources, we could spend a separate hour talking about the kind of resources that are available now, mashallah. So I think we're headed in the right direction, but I think there is just that one gap, which I really pray that, something, we've got 2, alhamdulillah, prophetic hubs that are going to be made in Luton. And I really, really sincerely hope that they will look at that and think, okay, should we do something for mums in the daytime where they can learn translation and tafsir? That would be amazing. Something that they can carry forward at home, have classes for kids around the meaning of the Quran. And again, for gents after work, like literally that to cater for every element of the community, so that they've got that. It's never too late to start. When we look at the Prophet's life, the mission actually came to them at the age of 40.
Yeah.
So, it's never, ever too late. So for us, whenever we see something, as long as we're being proactive and trying to do something around that. And I think there's some wonderful, wonderful, organizations now that are working towards this. But, we need to step forward to participate in that. So if there's a product available, go and get it. So like if we want to learn about the Prophet's life, there is actually more of a simplified seerah that's available now. So like we used to see it as a complex set of books. It's now really, put down in, really, really simplified terms. So
and they're all child friendly because we've invested in so many because I wanted to really make it something that the children could engage with, and I'm finding I'm engaging with it much more than the children because it's broken down to a level that I can understand. And yes, traditionally the Sira books that were available were in quite complex English, and there were some words that I had to sort of dwell on and think on, but this is alhamdulillah, and I think you're very right that we are exposed to so much, and there are so many avenues available to us. It's whether we are in the right mindset and we are ready to take that on. So I think that's really Really good. I'm going to give you a question to ponder on because, believe it or not, we are now actually in the coming towards the commercial break. But I wanted you to think about a moment where, in your learning so far, that's brought you closer to your faith. So, and that we will discuss after the break, listeners. So, yes, we are now heading over to a short commercial break. That's come very fast, and I'm hoping that everyone has found that of benefit so far. Listeners, do remember that I am taking in WhatsApp or text messages on the studio number 07779 481 822. If you have any questions for my guest around education from an Islamic perspective, we are now going to be looking at the next segment of the show, which was education as a means of growth. But for now, we are going to head over to a short commercial break, and this is your cue to go and refill your hot brew or whatever it is that you're having with me this morning, and join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM. Inspire 105.1.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من يحرم الرفق يحرم الخير, that whoever is deprived of gentleness is deprived of good.
Inspire FM is looking for committed, talented and knowledgeable individuals to join the Inspire Academy as tutors. We're looking for tutors who can teach maths, English, science and IT to join our pool of tutors and run face-to-face sessions on weekdays. To apply or for more information, email rashid@inspirefm.org or call us on 01582 481810.
A large and elegant wedding and events venue in the heart of Luton, catering for up to 1,200 guests, with a 5-star food hygiene rating, plenty of parking, bridal suite, family rooms and prayer facilities. Crescent Hall's the perfect venue for your wedding, events, parties and conferences. We have some great offers for summer. Contact us to find out more. Call 01582 723386, email bookings@crescenthall.co.uk or search for us online and social media. Crescent Hall, Luton. Conditions apply.
आइडियल प्रॉपर्टीज 20 साल से आपकी खिदमत में पेश आपकी प्रॉपर्टी की सारी जिम्मेदारी अब हमारी। हम अच्छी तरह से जांच पड़ताल करके किराएदार डालते हैं और आपको किराया बर वक्त गारंटी के साथ दिलवाते हैं। अगर आप प्रॉपर्टी किराए पर लेने या फरोख्त करने का सोच रहे हैं तो आज ही हमारे तजुर्बाकार माहिरीन से राब्ता कीजिए 01582721110 या फिर 01582696050। आइडियल प्रॉपर्टीज, आपकी मदद हमारा एन फरीजा।
AK Windows South Limited, manufacturers and installers of high-quality UPVC windows and doors, bifold doors, composite doors, conservatories, porches, skypods, fascias, guttering, and much, much more. We specialize in double glazing and triple glazing using the best German profile. If you want quality at affordable prices, AK Windows is the place to go. If your house needs a facelift, you know who to trust. For a free quote, call AK Windows today on 01582 483 777 or visit us at Unit 10E, Britannia Estate, Leagrave Road, Luton.
It doesn't take much to bring some difference. You give some change, which makes a change. Because nothing gets mileage like a charity. Just a little change turns into a chain. And before we know it, the results are massive. So give a little to make a big difference. For donations, call now. UKIM 0207 387 2157.
ملاحظة माजी हाल मुस्तकबिल की बातों के सुराग, इल्मी अदबी अफसाना शायरी और जिंदगी के राज, हवा की लहरों से बन के आवाज सुनिए हर जुमरा शाम 7 बजे। प्रोग्राम चराग
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:13.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Mother's Planet. It's Friday, 22nd of November, and the time has now just gone 10 o'clock. I am your host, Neelum, and joining me in the studio is my guest, Sadia. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
So Sadia and I have been speaking about education in today's society, and we've made reference to the spiritual and faith perspective. And just before the break, I asked Sadia the question about her sharing a moment of where her learning or education brought her closer to her faith. So she's had enough time to ponder over that question.
I think actually becoming a mother was a huge turning point for me, looking at faith through a different light. Because I mean, often we feel guilty that we're not doing something the same way, but actually viewing our duties as a mother as a form of ibadah, like what we're doing for our children. If you count that all in, you don't feel like you're taking away. Actually, this is just something that needs to be alongside of the learning that you're doing. And for me, as I mentioned earlier in the show, that I've got a son with complex needs. And for me, knowing that he's a child of Jannah and that Allah lifted the pen from him, and how, he's going to go in with that account, made me really reflect to think, oh, right, okay, what will my place be if I look at my actions and think about a scale in front of me? What will that look like? Will I be joining him? Will I see him in his full ability and, doing all the things that he can't do here? Will I be able to see that? I was like, well, if I want to, then I really need to change. And I think that really helped me through a lot of difficulties, as well as helped me channel my energies in the right way. And that really helped me lift up my sort of spiritual development. That was a huge, huge turning point for me.
And that's so admirable to hear, because, as we were talking in the break earlier, you have one of two choices when you're given a situation like that, and hearing about your son's journey and the challenges that you're having with him. You could either fall into resentment of questioning why did I have to have this? What have I done wrong? Why was I punished? Or you can see it as a blessing and, and turn it round, which is alhamdulillah what you have done. And it's so admirable to see that. And, may Allah make you succeed in your journey.
Ameen.
And, able to see this through, because it's amazing that you've taken the positive step rather than going back steps and doing that. So I mean, we wanted to look at education in today's world as part of self-growth and development, looking at we both have children in schools, so we see what they are studying. What do you think are areas that are essential for children to study for self-growth?
For self-growth. For me, being articulate is very important in this day and age, for us to be, our children to be confident enough to come forward, to say their views, say their beliefs, with an absolute conviction, because there's just so much out there right now that if the conviction is slightly dawdling, then we're going to run into problems as families, as a community, if we've not strengthened those things first. So, developing our families in the way that they're comfortable. I mean, the thing is, we know what our faith is, but it's turning that knowledge into actual faith. And as in say, okay, I believe. So I know there is a God. You say that. But it's like, do I believe? It's like, we know there is an afterlife, there is a heaven and hell. But you're only going to be believing that when your actions also follow that same course. So until you're actually moving yourself, you're actually bringing about that will to constantly remind yourself around it. You're going to be finding yourself, right, okay, you couldn't just lose yourself in this world within 10 seconds and it's madness. So self-development, not only for children, I say, for adults, the journey should never stop. Self-development is something that we should be, even if we reach our 80s, God bring that day, that we should be even at that stage thinking, because there is an ocean of knowledge to be sought, right? And the fact that it actually keeps our minds young, the fact that it actually helps our emotional well-being, the fact that it actually gives us something in other spheres. So even in our work, if you're working, because I mean, I did work before I become a carer. Now I worked 10 years in the events industry. So like for me, like, you know, having knowledge and on various topics, you know, meeting various clients from all kinds of backgrounds, I learned so much from them. They took something away from me. And that's what, you know, life is about. So like being in that continual state of learning is so important, because if we stop and we just kind of become, you know, so overcome by our circumstances, literally, if we just are restricted by our home and just say, okay, the only thing I'm worrying about is what's happening with my children, or what's happening in the family, or something's happening with my parents. If we run into that rut, then we actually, all we've got is stresses. We've got no knowledge is light. It is light. And until you don't allow that to enter you, you're not going to feel that it's doing, even in a storm, a knowledge will guide you how to come out of it. So it continually helps you grow. So if we don't, like I said, if we don't water that plant, we're not, you know, we're leaving ourselves open to, you know, just kind of wither away.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's, you know, it's very interesting. I had this conversation with my daughter yesterday, because she loves studying.
Mashallah.
And she really, and I only really, I think, you know, in the last week have understood how much it means to her. And, you know, I grew up in a time where education was, you're going to study this because you need to survive and you need to go out there and make a living. And so if you study this, this is going to keep you, you know, afloat. You're going to be able to generate money and make a living. And when I spoke to her, she said, she said, I don't know if I'm going to ever stop, Mum, because there is no, that if I put one book down, it's like the next one's calling out at me, or you know, this is, and I just want to pick. And mashallah, I mean, if I ever get stuck of like, sorry, I don't really know what to talk about, or I don't have a discussion, she'll mention things and say, Mum, you know, have you thought about this? Did you know this? Did you, you know, I'm like, where did you get that from? How did you know? And mashallah, she is, because she just likes feeding herself. And I asked her the question, and I'm going to ask it to you, that when you, I mean, you know, we know that, I think there's a hadith around this as well, that you are no one is ever fully acquired of knowledge.
Absolutely.
You are always continuously growing. And even at the age of 80, you know, you can still acquire knowledge and you still have things to learn. But when do you draw that line to say, right, okay, because I said to her, you're going to only study for us as much as you can before you need to say, I need to stop and I need to now put this study and knowledge into some form of practice and do something with it. You know, when do you draw that line?
I think it needs to happen alongside. So like if I'm, like when I study my Arabic, I look the way the course is laid out. The beautiful thing about it is that we look at, you know, real-time examples of hadith and, you know, verses of the Quran, and we're looking at, so he'd be like, okay, we just learned this, now I'm going to turn your attention to this verse. How are you applying what you just learned? So we're actually put on the spot. Ustad is very like, you know, there you're like, right, okay, could I have had a moment to think about this? But it is like straight away, and you feel the difference. That's when you know that you're allowing it to work, and that's where true growth lies, is when you allow it to go alongside, like as in you're allowing it to, I mean, something's benefit to me, I want to be able to come and share it somewhere else. That is, you know, turning it into action. So for me, like, you know, I would like, you know, if any of the listeners were to message in and say, oh, well, can you suggest an app? Can you suggest a course? You know, I would love to, you know, sit here and we could talk about this, you know, for another time. I mean, that's how much is out there. So it's allowing it to benefit yourself, your families, you know, and the wider circle. And that's when, well, actually, it can continue in a good way. It just needs to filter into all spheres of your life, basically, you know, for it to be meaningful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's something that you're continuously, and I think that's a good way of looking at it, where you are stopping and reflecting on your own life and saying, right, okay, I've learned this, I've understood this, how am I applying it in my life? And I think that's what we probably need to do, because, you know, I can see along the way of her journey of education, leaps and bounds, mashallah, she's made as a, you know, from what she was to where she is now. And she says it herself, she says, I go to places now, Mum, and the college have, you know, she's a chair governor, a student governor at the school.
Alhamdulillah.
And so she says, I will sit in a room with people I don't know. And she goes, that's me 5-6 years ago would have panicked and wanted to walk out and not. And then she goes, now I'm not intimidated. I just think they're people at the end of the day, and there's something that I can learn from them. There's something I can share with them. And so her mindset has changed and she's developed and grown in that. And so I said to her, that's level of maturity, because, you're not overwhelmed. You know that you have knowledge and you can share it with people. And so, yes, and I think sometimes it's not obvious where we are applying our knowledge.
This is it. I mean, I think staying connected with the Quran as Muslims it's a lifelong journey. It's timeless wisdom. So for us, it's not stopping. It's for us actually, those people who study really, really deep into it, they say when they revisit a surah or an ayah, set of verses, they say, actually, we found something new in it. Like, although we did an in-depth study of it a couple of years ago, we're looking back again, actually, we found something else that we can take away from this. That's how vast it is. So the fact that connecting to the Quran is like a lifelong journey, and it will help you. The stories in the Quran are there reflecting every age, every era, everything. Like it's there. These stories are still happening today, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why if we turn to the Quran, we've got that example to continually going. So that's what I'm saying. The learning in that regard, it doesn't stop. It's like, it's there for how much we want to take it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's a tough question that I'm about to ask because it's a question that I've had a lot of people in the community ask me, and I can see a lot of the youth falling into this, where education becomes a means for material gain.
Yeah.
So I want to study this, or I want to go and do this because it's going to make me money. And I was invited to a careers event at a high school, where I was able to talk to the young girls and boys and speak to them and ask them about what their future wanted to be. And I walked away really upset, because I thought, I can't believe how much. I mean, I know they are young and they're only 14 or 15.
So like single track.
It was just, I'm not going to do that because that's not going to get me rich. I'm not going to do that because it's not going to get me money, or I'm not going to. And it's very difficult. I mean, do you agree? Would you say that the youth is heading that way?
So, I mean, they see their career as, obviously they're making a break of everything. It is literally like that bonding thing that takes you from out of your schooling journey to your working life. And if you've got the platform to get you there, that's what's going to get you the job. So I understand, the emphasis they place behind it and the importance that it has for them. But like for us, that's why growing up, if we're giving our children that, sort of Islamic grounding, at the same time, they will have faith that they will work hard. Allah will give them the result for that. They will get what is in their rizq. They will work hard, and they want to achieve for the sake of being community leaders, right? So if they add, I don't mind anyway. I mean, it's great for someone to be academic, or, for them to be, career focused, as long as they've got the right intention behind it. The intention has to come with it, and it can't just be that single track intention. So as long as we're, giving room for that, for what they're doing, but also giving them the other side of it, saying that, remember that you can be all successful you like, but your success comes from Allah. It doesn't come from anywhere else. So like, yes, work hard so that you can earn that, keep making dua, that you can go from height to height to height. Encourage them. Absolutely. You want them to propel. No doubt. We want, like I said, people, to be stood out as an example. I mean, we had a tour recently, Dr. Rania Awad from the US. She's an educational psychologist who's like made a discovery of something that's actually come from Muslim history that was first it's actually been labeled as, previously labeled as coming from European history, but she's actually managed to kind of myth bust that through her research, and now they've had to publish that officially, and she came to talk about that here in the UK. So that's the kind of level I'm saying that you can do something that impactful, right? If you want to go down that path, that you want to be the best, absolutely go ahead and do that. But just remember the true source of success and where it comes from, and that we have that humbleness, that humility that, keeps us, in check. Otherwise, like I said, the whole idea of money will take over, success, just being the one thing that we're chasing. And in success, some people then neglect their families, then neglect all the other things. We've got as a Muslim, we have many hats to wear. We have hats for, being dutiful to our parents. We have hats for, our, other, our family that involves our children. We have duty towards our neighbors, to the wider community. And then even beyond that, like when we talk about the Ummah, and obviously we will, speak about that next when we speak about Gaza. Yeah.
And I think that's sound advice there, Sadia, because absolutely. And one thing to really emphasize on there is that with wealth, there is also trouble. So, some people, I say it to my children all the time that, you see these people that are successful and they have breakdowns because
they're empty.
There is something missing from their souls.
Absolutely.
And so, you have to feed your soul as well as your bank,
100%.
You have to do the both. And, and doing, I always say to the children, I want you to succeed, alhamdulillah, make that easy for all of you. But I want you to also do something where you're making a difference in people's lives, you know, and you're not just doing something, selfish, you're doing something selfless.
That's
where
right,
you're doing it for others, which brings us nicely to the final part of our show where we are talking as part of education being as hope. And, you are part of a very huge. I wouldn't say it's huge. I don't know much about this charity, and I think the listeners would really want to probably get a bit more background and understanding about this charity. So who it is, and I think what we're all keen to hear is why you felt why. With all the trouble that Gaza is facing today, and with all the relief that we can offer and all the support we can offer, why was education one of the things that you chose to support?
I think for me, like I said to you, education is a building block for life. It's a necessity. Like I saw this wonderful clip the other week, and in Gaza, a man was going around, he had 20 shekels in his hand and he had a notebook in his hand, and he was offering the children, he goes, which one would you like? And 9 out of the 10 children chose the notebook. So it shows like the value and meaning of education. And when I come across, so the founder of the particular initiative I'm talking about is called School Without Borders, and the founder's name is Noor Nassar. Now, when I came across her clips on social media, I saw her carrying this heavy black sort of holdall that had something just sort of unassembled in it. And I thought, okay, what? And she's walking across the rubble. A few seconds later, she's like building something up, and then there's a whiteboard, a standalone whiteboard, and then she's gathered all these children and she's teaching them from this mobile point. And I saw, the children, although heavily affected by trauma, I mean, all of them have lost families, all of them lost their homes. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. But having that meant the world to them. You could see there was still a gleam in their eyes that somebody actually took them and said, you know what, we're not going to allow for your life to just go downhill like this. Being literate is, the biggest force in Gaza, of why they've survived till this date. If anyone looks up James Elder of UNICEF, he actually says, he goes, that Gaza has the highest literacy, one of the highest literacy rates in the world. Right? We're talking about prior to October 7th. And it is the willingness of these people, their drive, their passion for education that has, those who have left Palestine, you will find them at such high positions around the world. Palestinian people are absolutely exceptional in that regard, that they are very, they stand out in this ummah as people who literally have so much tawakkul, and that, they say, they will throw themselves to work hard in every field, and not only just work hard at it, but just absolutely excel at it. So the people that I'm going to speak about, and so the Noor Nassar that I speak about, she was actually a trainee lawyer before the war, and obviously with everything collapsing, she was like, well, what can I do for people around me? She did not sit there and think, right, okay, there's all this devastation around me.
Is she, sorry to interrupt you, is she a Palestinian?
Yeah, so she's in Gaza. Yeah, okay. So we were actually working with people that are on the ground. So this initiative is for Gazans by Gazans, right? That's what made it, like, for me, the circumstances are so distressing that it's placed so much doubt in people's mind in giving, that, they say, oh, well, if aid trucks are outside, what are we giving money to? Where is our money going? And all of these things, because of the circumstances that are being created around there. And I thought, actually, these people are there. And when I got in contact with Noor, I said, I think it's fabulous that you've brought these smiles to these children's faces. There's no one more deserving of these smiles than they are. Right. And I said, what can I do for you? And she said, well, we'd like to set up another mobile education point. And I said, well, tell me what you need. How are we going to do this? And literally the conversation rolled from there. So like what started out as 30 children, and early this year when I got involved, it grew to about 120 children. Mashallah, now we're coming up to close to 600 plus children that the project is supporting. Because, literally they've been creating more mobile points, training. They're actually in this situation, they're actually doing proper teacher training. They document it all online. They're taking people that are qualified on. They give them training, especially around how the children are being impacted by the current circumstances, to be mindful of that, and how's the best way to engage them. They don't just do it, they do it incredibly well. And I think that's what the attraction was to this project, because I was just so inspired by these people's determination not to be brought down. She was like, the fact that, she goes, the biggest hit that we could take is somebody take this knowledge from us, for us to be left, our children to be left illiterate. She goes, that would be the biggest blow to us. And she goes, for so long as we tackle that, we're still ahead. And I thought, actually, you know what, I'm going to, you just tell me what we're doing, and I will speak to everybody who I can. And we will continue to support you, even if we are across the seas. So that's where we've been. And it's, like I said to you, it's growing. The points are growing, they're accessing more camps, there's more children, they're able to give stationery out, they're able to give snacks out to children who've been hungry for days, so that when they come to the mobile point, they'll get a snack and they'll get some water. So all of that makes a huge difference. And you see them doing various programs. And this week there was World Children's Day, and they did, really made it special for them. They really do go through lengths. I mean, there's a selflessness of a different caliber when we talk about Gazans. They are just, like I said to you, I feel like, my contribution is absolutely nothing. I'm here saying that if I can be any way part of this, that it'd be my honor and my privilege. They're not doing, I'm not doing anything for them. They're lifting up their people, and we should be playing every part in doing that.
And that's so lovely to hear. And it's so nice to hear that, that after all the trauma and devastation they are going through, that the means of educating themselves and that the drive to want to learn and understand knowledge is still there. And these children, and they are, because when anyone is imposed with any form of devastation, trauma, hurt, loss, or anything, that the first thing people do is, right, we need to now deal with their mental well-being, we need to talk them through it, we need to cope. You go into that. But for her to take this step of, I'm going to turn this and do education and teach children and bring smiles on their faces, universally, because when you coach someone about their mental well-being, it has to be one-to-one, because everyone's needs are different. Whereas when you are putting a board up and you are giving them education, this is applicable to everybody. And all the children will gain from it. All the children sitting there will learn something from it. It's it's meeting everyone's needs. So it's very nice to see that or hear that this is happening. And before the show, I did go onto the social media platform on Instagram and have a look at them. And I can see some of the video clips which have been posted. So we're running short on time because we've got a couple of minutes left on the show. I think listeners would want to know how far you've come with your fundraising, how they can support this campaign, and, you know, again, just any other platforms or contact numbers that they can contact the charity themselves to support.
Sure. So, I mean, the main thing is right now we're trying to meet their immediate needs for the winter. So the fundraising that's happening is for tents, because they've been teaching open sky or like kind of sort of a canopy when it was really, really hot. So the fundraising we're doing now is for tents. So we've raised in the region of 3,800. Alhamdulillah.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the time. We've got about 40 seconds.
Oh, bless you, 3,800, and we've got a target of 5,000. If you go on GoFundMe and if you place in School Without Borders in the search, you'll see a blue logo come up, and if you click on that, you'll find the full campaign details on there. And we look forward to your support. That's the main thing. So if you go along, the whole story is on there. We have just over 1,100 more to make so that we can get these tents. So we really, really welcome your support.
Inshallah, alhamdulillah. And listeners, inshallah, we will have anything like that on the Inspire FM Facebook page. But for now, Jummah Mubarak and Friday blessings. Thank you so much for your time.
Jazakallah khair.
And listeners, please do remember the Gazans in your dua today. Assalamu alaikum.
So.